Okay, time to figure out what's on this thing.
Incryption might be one of my favorite card games of all time. It's got such a unique atmosphere to it, and it makes itself a really fun card game too. I've wanted to do a challenge on this game for a while, but most of the ones that I wanted to do people have already done already online. It took me some time, but I think I finally found something that no one's done before. So today, I'd like to take a stroll through the forest with you to find out, is it impossible to beat Incryption without actually killing anything? So, we're going to be playing through the Casey's mod version of the game. This is basically so we just have access to every card in the game. Our only goal is to beat the game through any means necessary. And really, it only seems like there's one deck that'll help us actually beat the game. The Mantis God deck starts us off as one of the best cards in the game, and is the sole reason we're actually able to beat the game in the first place. Since the only goal is to beat the game, we're not going to activate any of the challenges for now. And just like that, we're off on our adventure to hopefully not kill anything in our path. Our first order of business is grabbing some cards, so I grab a Mantis and a Whirlwind from the card shop at the start of the game. After that I go to a fireplace and almost mistakenly put my Mantis God in the fireplace. But instead I use my brain and put a useful ringworm inside the fireplace instead. If you've never played this game before, trust me, it's good that the ringworm died. After that, we get into our first fight of the game, against a single skink, but trust me, that skink's not even going to get a chance to attack. I literally got all of the cards I needed in my starting hand, so I can just take out the opponent without even worrying about the skinks. After that, I'm forced to choose a card, so I pick Bug because bugs are OP, and I end up getting a cockroach. Remember that ringworm we sacrificed earlier? Well, thanks to its noble sacrifice, we'll able to upgrade any of our cards twice. So, obviously, I go for Mantis God. We end up going into a fight with some kingfishers, which ultimately don't do much since we can't even attack them if we wanted to. After only a couple of turns, fight's done and over. We get some pretty shitty options here, but I end up taking this one because it's the worst, and you'll see why in a minute. We immediately sacrifice it to the Mantis God so we can make the Mantis God flying, and this, my friends, is why this challenge is possible. Because the flying ability ignores enemies completely, we're able to just fly over them without actually killing them. At this point, I'm almost at the first boss, so I end up getting another card, I end up upgrading one of my other ones, and I end up strengthening my Mantis God even more at the fireplace. And just like that, we're at the first boss of the game, the Angler. This fight was so much easier than it had to be. We just immediately start off with our Mantis God, and even during the second phase of the fight, he has no way of blocking this damage, so we immediately just win the fight. I wish I had anything interesting to say about this fight, but literally nothing happened. I played a card and I won. Let's move on. To be honest, none of these cards interest me, but I take the Amalgam simply because of the stats. At least they're okay. And just like that, we're in the second area, the snow line. I try and fail to do this puzzle, but I end up accidentally doing it and getting a card as a result. The only one that looks remotely interesting is the cat, so I take it. Might as well make it better while I'm at it. This fight had me a little worried for a minute. The entire field's covered in bunnies on the first turn, so we need to get our Mantis immediately if we want any chance of beating it. Luckily I draw it after a couple of turns and we can end the fight safely with no one harmed. Let me get through this next part quick. I get a card I don't want, a few items that I do want, I end a battle in one turn, and then I get another card I don't want. And then I sacrifice a ringworm to Satan, and get the ringworm's bones. And now for one of the most annoying fights I have come across in this challenge. The fight consists of a bunch of ravens, raven eggs, and a single mole that will prevent me from attacking Leslie. And what's worse is I haven't started with my Mantis God in my hand, so I'm kind of in a bit of a pickle. The only reason I survived as long as I did was because I had flying creatures of my own to fly over the mole. That being said, this was no easy fight. Although I could damage the enemies without killing them, I was slowly losing all of the progress I made to the ravens on the other side. At this point in the fight, I was basically out of options. I only had Mantises and an Amalgam in my hand, and I didn't really have any way to attack past the enemies. I eventually caved in and just used one of my fan items to fly over the enemies and hope to end the battle quickly. At the last moment, I was able to pull my Mantis card, and with that I could sleep easy knowing I didn't kill a single animal. Before the next boss, I get a Raven card, I go to the painter to make a copy of my Mantis card, and I get a replacement item for the fan I used, and then we're off to the second boss, the Trapper. This fight is actually really interesting to talk about. To start off, I use my pliers in a panic because I'm stupid. Then I start to think about my actual situation. All of his cards block my flying mantis, so I have to find another way to attack him. I end up using a fish hook to bring one of his traps onto my side of the field. After this turn, I gotta find a way to kill my Raven, because if I don't, it'll end up killing the trap on the other side. Luckily I draw a Mantis, so I'm able to play it in the corner and get just enough damage to move on to the next phase. At this point, you're supposed to have pelts, but since I haven't been sacrificing any of my creatures, I do not have any, so I can only take one card. I end up taking the one card that blocks flying damage so I can play my Mantis and end the battle. It's unfortunate I used my fish hook right now. I had plans for it later, but I think it was justified to use it in this fight. I honestly don't give a shit about any of these cards, but I'd take Ouroboros just for the hell of it. Entering the third and final area of the game, the Woodlands, I immediately gain another card from one of the cave minigames, and another item to replace my fish hook. Mantis God makes the next fight his bitch, and then we gain another card. I get a wolf head from the sketchy old lady, and then we're immediately thrown into the next fight. I don't start off with my Mantis card, so you already know that I'm fucked. In order to win this fight, I'm gonna have to get a little bit creative. I have a Raven with the ability to come back to my hand once it dies, so I use this to my advantage by sacrificing it to play my Whirlwind with the same abilities. When a Whirlwind is played, it makes a bunny in my hand that costs nothing and has the same ability as the Whirlwind. What this means is I have a free card that I can play as many times as I want, no matter how many times it dies. I use this to my advantage by killing both the Whirlwind and the bunny off to play a Raven so I can get the bunny and the Whirlwind back into my hand. Then I place the bunnies in the open spaces so I don't take damage and attack. After that, it's basically game over. It's just a waiting game until the Ravens can take down the opponent. Moving on, I finally fail one of those mini games and I end up sacrificing another creature to the angry goat. I just wanted to take this opportunity to show you how fucking broken the rabbits and the infinity symbol can be. I basically just play all of my cards on turn 1. Yeah, that fight fucking sucked, I know. At this point, I really don't want cards, so I just have to take the ones that I get and make the ones I already have better. I also wanted to be a dumbass today, so I went to the backpack to get more items, but I ended up getting a card I didn't want instead. And just like that, we find ourselves at the third boss, the Prospector. The thing I'm most worried about in the beginning here is using too many of my cards too fast, so we're going to take it a bit slow, and by that I mean I'm not going to do that. By doing some shenanigans with the bunnies, I'm able to play the Raven and get the bones for the Alpha for a clean 5 damage on turn 1. Going into turn 2, the Prospector turns off my creatures and the gold nuggets, which basically act as shields on my side of the board I can't do anything about. This, however, is a good thing because now we get the opportunity to draw cards before anything can attack us. On the next turn, I'm just 1 damage short from being able to take him out, but it's okay because there's no way that he can take me out before I can deal the last point of damage. And just like that, the third boss goes down. We get our last whale card, which honestly I really couldn't give a shit about at this point. And then we're off to the final boss. As a last minute preparation, we go sacrifice one of our pack rats to one of our mantises before going to the final boss. It's time for our toughest challenge we've come to face yet. Let's get to why this fight is so hard. The Merman is a card that will move in front of a creature to take damage for Lessie. It also has the ability to block flying creatures. My initial strategy was to use the fish hook so we could bring it onto our side. But since I used it earlier, I gotta find another way to get out of this. Already, as you see, we're gonna get pretty quickly overwhelmed by the enemies here, so we don't have a lot of time to make mistakes. I'm actually surprised I found a way to survive this turn. See, the mole man will move to an empty spot and take the damage for Leslie, but if you do damage in a spot that there's already a card, the mole man won't move to that spot. What this means is, if I put the Mantis God in the corner, it'll attack where the Mantis is for 3 damage, and attack the empty spot where the mole man will appeal for 3, not killing the mole man, but doing some damage to Leslie at the same time. Of course, this isn't a foolproof strategy. I have to kill the Mantis God now in order for it to not kill the mole man. There's also way too much shit on the field doing too much damage, so I really gotta find some way to get to Leslie quickly. In a game-changing move, I draw the one card that could have saved me, the Whirlwind. Because of the rabbit's broken ability, we're able to play all of our cards on the field at the same time. And this fishhook attack is also going to be a great way to get rid of the mole man. By playing the rabbit last, we're able to force him to take it so that he can move the mole man out of the way. With this setup, we're able to get through the rest of the first phase and get to the second phase of the fight with a pretty strong defense. Before Leslie can do anything, the Mantis God takes him out one more time to enter the last phase of the fight. Now, I know what you are thinking, but we can't kill anything! But let me argue against that point. The moon is not an animal, it is a fucking rock! So we are able to kill it without breaking the rules. Fuck you. And in just a few turns, we'll take down the moon and finally beat Leslie. And with that, we have proved that you can, in fact, beat Incryption as a pacifist. This video took me a lot longer to get out than I wanted to. It's also one of my videos I put the most effort into, so if you could leave it a like to show your support, that would be greatly appreciated, knowing that not everything I do is complete trash. I also want to thank you personally, for sticking around until the end of the video. It means a lot. It really does. It lets me know that I'm appreciated. So, thanks. And hey, if you feel up to it, leave a comment on how you feel about this video or stuff that you want me to do in the future. It'd be nice to know what you want to see from me. Thanks. I seem to have taken up enough of your time, so I best be off now. I hope you guys have a great day. I really do. Well then, until our next adventure.